Right, guys, at this stage of the training series, we've covered many of the most important and fundamental concepts needed to build out our backends. So, as part of this workshop, and to really help you guys become experts with Intent Architect, I'm going to show you guys a couple of very useful tips and tricks that can be super helpful when building out our applications. So, let's jump right in. I'm going to start by taking you through the toolbar at the top here. The first is the navigation system. So, these two options over here. So, as I move through my application, as I select different elements, I right click and say go to definition inside of my domain, and I click on the address. Notice that if I start pushing the navigate backwards, it's going to take me through the exact same selection that I just navigated through to. And if I go forward, it'll do exactly the same thing and just take me back. Now, there's of course a shortcut for this. The shortcut is the Alt left arrow to go back and the Alt right arrow to go forward. Right, so we can go back and forward very, very quickly, and that's very useful as we want to backtrack through the system where we've just come from, or if we're going to want to go back to where we have backtracked from, we want to go forward again, right? But sometimes we actually just want to flick between different tabs, and the most efficient way to do this is actually through the Control Tab system. So if I hold down Control and I push Tab, notice that a tab selection option comes up, and if I keep pushing Tab, it'll take me through the different options. It'll cycle through the different active tabs that I currently have available. If I then hold down Shift and I press Tab again and I keep pushing Tab, notice that it'll cycle through this in reverse. Now, this is a very standard shortcut too, but if I want to head back to my services, I can just say Tab and I can release the Control shortcut and it'll take me to the services. If I want to flick back to the domain, I can say Control Tab, release, and it'll take me back to my domain. So you just need to hold down the Control while you push Tab, and as you release, it'll flick you back. So that's also very, very useful as we want to move around the system, because sometimes we need to see what's happening in the domain, quickly go back to the services, quickly come back to the domain, and of course, we want to make that as smooth and effortless. So keep that shortcut in mind. The save is very obvious, Control S. We can also save all as an option over here. Then, of course, there's the undo redo systems. You probably have discovered these just by chance up to this point. So, of course, if we move something on the diagram, as a simple example, we can undo that change or redo that change. And, of course, the same shortcuts apply. I can Control Z or Control Y, and it'll jump between the undo and the redo. Right, so I'm just going to leave this as undo for now. And then moving on to the next option over here. So we have an open execute script dialog. Now, this is something that isn't super obvious to developers when they first start using Intent Architect, is that there is actually an API, JavaScript API, that you can use to control the Intent Architect designers. Whether you're in whichever designer you're in, you can actually control that designer programmatically. Everything that you can do with your mouse and your keyboard, you can pretty much do through this scripting, right? And so if we go to this and I click on it, it's going to launch it up here. And I've got something like a lookup classes, and I can actually go, and this has got IntelliSense here. This is from a previous run of this video. I can go for each, and we can extend this, and I can basically say I would like to delete all of these options, right? So I can go and just delete all of my classes in one go if I wanted to do that. I'm not going to do that, but that's just something that is available to me if I wanted to. And so if I come back to the services, just to give you an idea here, this is a script that I dropped off also earlier, and this is just a larger script which does quite a lot more, just to give you an idea of how far you could take things. Now, one thing that is also worth just mentioning is that you can package these scripts up, and you can package them up through the module building system into what we call accelerators. So these accelerators that we were using earlier, same as the different suggestions that pop up, these can all be configured, and you can create your own inside of the Intent Architect ecosystem through the module building systems. And these scripts that you can run directly here through the window, you can package them up and make them available in your designers at any point through the module building systems. Okay, so just something worth keeping in mind, not something we're going to cover as part of this video today. Then another very, very useful tool that we have available to ourselves is the go to type or search everywhere with a Control T shortcut. This is very useful for us to be able to find something in our system. So if we're looking for our order, we can say Control T and I can type order, and it's going to show me there's my order, right? If I push enter, it's going to take me to the order. Of course, I can just push Control T. It'll remember what I wrote there, and I can go up and down, and I can say, well, actually, I was looking for the order line, and I can click on the order line, and it'll take me to the order line. Now, one thing that is also worth just keeping in mind here is that if I'm looking for order line, I can just say Control O, Shift O, Shift L, so basically capital O, capital L, and the capitals will essentially line up from the searching systems, will line up with the capitals in the beginning of each word if it's in a camel case, in a Pascal case format. So we can just search through the system very, very easily. If we're looking for anything that has order line DTO or anything like that, it'll go and pick those kind of options up for us. All right. So the search everywhere is very, very useful as a way for us to find things in the system And this is really something that runs across the entire solution. And it also includes things like settings. So if we type data for database, this will show us all of the database settings as well as any of those settings that have the word data in it. So there we can see the database provider comes up at the top and all the other different database settings come up below that. So this is also very useful if we're looking for something. Just keep in mind that the search everywhere, the Control T shortcut is always there and available for you. Another very useful aspect to this is also being able to find usages. And so we can right click on anything and we can say find usages or shift F12. And what that's going to do is it's going to find me the usages of, for example, the order. And here we can see all of the usages. There's the order DTO. There's some associations that are linked to this. This is basically to the customer or to the order lines. We can see those on the diagram right now. And then there's some in the services. So we can see which designer it's in with this little icon on the right over there. And we can see that there's some queries, deletes, creates, updates, all linked. And if I select any of these, I'm just going to use my mouse and click on it. It's going to take me to that relationship immediately. And I can Control Tab and I'm back to where I was. All right. We can do the Shift F12 and we can find out where's that DTO, the order DTO. We can hit that and press enter, and that's going to take us directly to the order DTO. That's not on the diagram. That's over here inside of the model, the tree view. And here we can see our order is basically our order DTO. It takes us directly to that location. And I can Shift Tab my way back. Right. So those are the two finding usages and searching everywhere. Also very, very useful. Control T and the Shift F12 to go find the usages. Then Software Factory, I think that that's pretty obvious. F5 is the shortcut for that. Coming to the right over here, let me run you through these tools. So this is, if you'd like to see the latest changes that we've made to Intent Architect, you could check out what's new by clicking on this icon over here. This is essentially a gift icon, and it'll take you through to the release notes. So at any point in time, if you're curious about what we've done to the system to help improve it, go ahead and click and take a look. Then we can switch between our light theme and dark theme very, very easily by clicking on this button over here. I'm not going to do that in case you're watching this at night. I don't want to blind you. And then we've got a feedback option. I can click on this. You guys can give us feedback. Please do. We really appreciate any feedback, both positive to help us reinforce what we're doing and also critical or any kind of improvement tips that you guys may have for us. Please feel free to share the feedback. We do really appreciate it. And it also helps shape what Intent Architect is. We take it very, very seriously. And then coming into the help topic system. So we've got a help system inside of Intent Architect, and this will launch up the help dialog. And one thing about the help dialog is that there's a little bit of sophistication to it in the sense that what we've tried to do with it is we've tried to scope things so that they remain relevant to you, the topics at least, to scope those topics so that they are relevant to you as the developer for what you could possibly be looking for. So we know that we can also search for topics, but sometimes we don't necessarily want to search for them. We just want to discover what options are available out there. So for discoverability reasons, we've got these different options available to us. So if you see from the first breadcrumb option that is highlighted over here, this is the domain. And this is essentially showing us all topics that are available to us in the domain. And so if we scroll through these are all topics that are only applicable to our domain and only applicable from the modules that we've got installed. So the actual modules that we have installed, the architectural components and the designer components that we've installed, those are going to list their topics that are applicable for the domain. So this is essentially a short list of what your current application is capable of as it stands right now without changing your modules. If we want to zoom out a little bit and we want to see all of the topics that are available for the application, we can click on application. That'll show us all of the topics at that level. And then there is the all topics option. And if I click on this, or if I just do a search, this is going to take us to all topics in the entire Intent Architect ecosystem. So if we're looking for anything here that even is part of a module that is not installed, we will find it as part of the all topics, right? If we search in applications or if we look through applications, it will only be the topics that are installed by the modules that we've got installed, right? So this will filter out to what our current application is capable of, and this will look outside of what we're currently capable of into the entire ecosystem. I hope that that's 100% clear. Now, the other thing I can just mention over here is that we can also, if we right click on any particular element, we can see that there's a help option or F1, and we can push help. And this will essentially bring us to the help. Now, notice that we're in the breadcrumbs. We've got now the class and then the domain and then the application and then all topics. So this is the shortlist for the class. So if you want to discover what options are available to you for the particular element that you've got selected, you could just press F1 or right click and click on the help option there. Now, of course, if I do a search and I search for some topic that doesn't exist, okay, then we do have another option here where you can request a topic. You can essentially click request topic, fill in what the topic you were looking for, what you were trying to do. There is a I would like support to contact me. This means that one of our support engineers will reach out to you as soon as you submit. And we could just type whatever we want in here. We could say submit request, and that will essentially request a topic to the team. And this is very useful for us because we want to create topics that are relevant to the developers and their usages. This helps us to not guess what you guys are looking for, and it really helps us to stay on point. So once again, filling these things in is really appreciated by our team. So please do so. Then the last thing I just want to touch on very quickly is the profile options here. You can see there's quite a couple of options that are available. We can go to our account details, some user settings. So this is very useful. Let's just take a quick look here for just setting our theme, whether we want to run the pre-release versions. This is, by the way, pre-releases. Just to keep in mind, the pre-releases may be less stable than the final releases. Just something I think that's pretty standard, but just something to keep in mind. And then you can also fill in things like your AI, API keys, and things like that, as well as your diff tool settings. So there's lots of different settings you can go through in here. And then the other aspects to the profile that is very, very useful is the keyboard shortcuts. So I've showed you guys lots and lots of shortcuts throughout these videos, and you may be wondering, well, where do these shortcuts, where can I find the full list of shortcuts? If I click on keyboard shortcuts over here, it's going to bring up the full list of shortcuts. But what it does do is this list that's going to show us, that it will show us, is also going to be focused on what we've actually selected. So we've got the general shortcuts that'll show up over here. And then below that, we've got the selection shortcut. So whatever I happen to have selected inside of my designer, we will see the selection shortcuts show up over here. I have a class, an entity selected. So adding constructors, associations, repositories, opening in the IDE, those kinds of things, those are all available to me. There's the help, and so on and so forth. And then we've also got diagram options that are available to me too. Right. So this is how you can find your shortcuts, and keep in mind that you may be in different parts of the system. And so these shortcuts will show differently as you select different elements. So it's always worth just checking if there's a shortcut you're looking for, you can find it over here. Great, guys. That's really what we wanted to cover as part of this session. I hope that these tips and tricks are really, really useful and you get a lot out of them. There are others, and I hope I've also given you the tool to discover them. Until the next one, wishing you guys all the best, and cheers.